First half 6-0, bye week, and set for the stretch drive in the back half of 2024. Miami football talk right here at the Voice of College Football. We always appreciate you stopping by. Falconer X, are you out there? Thank you for the super chats, by the way, of the Florida State show, but we were hustling to get that thing off the air. I don't think I properly acknowledged that, but Falconer deserves some love here and recognition for all that he does. So hopefully you have already arrived, but we appreciate everyone here, Miami fans and other college football fans, talking Canes. And again, 6-0, headed toward one of those dates on the calendar that we circled back in the offseason, Louisville. It's a noon Eastern time game. Cam Underwood, of course, making it all work for us here on a Wednesday night. Cam, how are you?
Doing well, man. Can't complain. Falconer TRX, always, good to have you around on any and all of these shows. So, shout out to you. And, in typical tradition and fashion, the team that we're playing this week is Louisville. I don't want to hear about next week or we're focused on Louisville to and through the end of this week's game. Anything else that might happen after that is after that. Anything else that we might, treat the way that we've been doing it for was it 13 years that I've been blogging at State of the U? We might look at it in that same typical, kind of way. But this week we play Louisville. And so our focus and conversation will be exclusively there. And I believe that they have earned it because they are a challenging team. This is a team, one of the games that we did circle before the year, like, hey, in looking at the list of toughest games and like where it falls in the schedule and we're there. So, the only way that we're, that you build the kind of season that Miami wants to build is to win the game that you're playing each week. And so we're playing Louisville this week. We're going to focus on Louisville this week. Anything after that, we will focus on after that. I hope, set the lines of engagement, so you guys understand the focus is on Louisville and anything else will be when it's time.
We have in recent weeks addressed all of the superlatives from this team, but also a few slight concerns. One was the running game with all the prowess of this offensive line and the two backs in particular, really four deep, but the two in particular that get most of the load in the meaningful snaps, Fletcher and Martinez. I saw Louisville play against SMU a couple weeks ago, and I pretty much took it in that entire game. And there is some hay to be, where is my cliche, whatever that cliche is about making hay.
Hay to be made, yeah.
Is there to be made by Miami in the run game against this Louisville defense?
I mean, I think that there's hay to be made anywhere, with passing and running against the Louisville defense. They are, they do have a talented unit, but they do struggle a little bit giving up big plays. And I think the same can be said for Miami, especially in recent weeks, where giving up chunk plays against, Virginia Tech and Cal, and the explosive plays that were given up against Cal that was challenging. Like, clearly we found a way to win that game and yada, yada, yada. And I haven't said this until I really just thought about it right now. But like the outlier performance of the explosive passing plays by Cal, again, they had a singular passing play over 30 yards all year. It was a 46-yard throw. They eclipsed that 4 times in the game against Miami. man, I wish I would have written this, but I mean, you guys got to blow this up. The last time that something like that in this kind of disparate level of explosivity was shown was Middle Tennessee State against Miami when they beat us. Because that was a dink and dunk 10, 12 yard, but then they're hitting, I mean, they hit all the shot plays in the world, right? You remember that? And one of those receivers is actually on Virginia Tech. Now, the Lane kid, who's the punt returner, right? So he played in Hard Rock Stadium on Middle Tennessee years ago, beat Miami, yada, 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 has transferred to Virginia Tech as a redshirt senior, came back to the scene of the crime, and it was not the same, but yeah, but Cal had a similar kind of outlier passing game explosivity performance against Miami, and it wasn't the same because Middle Tennessee's was worse even than that, which, 4 plays for 240 yards. You're thinking, bro, like there's been worse, and we saw it, but it was that kind of performance from the defense. So while there is room for Miami to operate on offense and find, green grass and run, that also presents itself for Louisville. And, this is a team that has fashioned themselves as, or thinks of themselves as better than Miami. And, I hate to say it, they have beaten us.
Cam was reaching for a key on his laptop. I could see it, and he obviously selected the wrong one. And Cam is back. I could see you reaching to make a selection. You obviously wiped us off the screen. I've done that.
I went to go hit a new tab, and apparently I hit, Control T. I hit Control R for reload, and everything. So yeah, not great. But Louisville won last year, and Miami beat them twice. 19 and 20 back to back. But before that, it was 31-13. Bobby Petrino against Al Golden. The year before that, 36-9. Charlie Strong beating Al Golden, and in 2006, Bobby Petrino 31-7 over a Larry Coker Miami team. So what's that? 4-2 in the last 6, include 3-5 or 3-2 in the last 5, and having won last year. It's a team that Miami has struggled with, and Louisville. I mean, the ascension of their program in the 2020s is thanks to South Florida. Like, if we're going to be honest, Theodore Bridgewater and Lamar Jackson going there. Like, Teddy Bridgewater was going to come here. We fired Randy Shannon. I get it. He goes there, has a legendary career. Lamar Jackson, I mean, I'm not going to call him just mid, but he was a good high school quarterback, but he wasn't Lamar Jackson like that. That was the year after Brad Kaya. So we were looking at him as maybe like a, quarterback, and we'll see what happens, kind of Anquan Bolden-ish thing. Anquan Bolden played 3 reps at quarterback. He was an All-American, like first-team All-American high school quarterback, if you don't know. Played 3 reps at quarterback his freshman year. Then Bobby Bowden was like, hey, we're short on bodies in the receiver line. Why don't you go over there and help out? And the rest was history, right? So we're thinking of Lamar Jackson kind of like that. Shout out to his mama, who said, don't talk to me unless it's about my son playing quarterback. We're going to see that my son is a quarterback, period, pointblank.com in the story. Bobby Petrino was like, yeah, okay. Miami, you got Brad Kaya, borderline freshman All-American. You think that you're pretty set. We'll see. We're good. We're going to go there. And the ascension of Lamar Jackson happened from there. And multiple other guys throughout this roster of Louisville. So, in the past and present have been from South Florida or, spurned by Miami. And, again, I disagree, but, they fancy themselves as better than us. And maybe that's one of the reasons.
Better than who?
that in that Louisville fancies themselves as better than Miami, and they've beaten us in enough times. I mean, 4 out of 6 since 06. Okay, I disagree, and maybe that's one of the reasons why they grate on my nerves. But you got to go and show and prove at this point. And I went around talking about the ascension of their program being based on basically 2 South Florida quarterbacks. One from Miami Northwestern, one from Boynton Beach, who lived in Pompano and drove up. Pompano Beach being in Broward County, Boynton Beach being in West Palm, who and drove up there. Interesting residency rules, but whatever. I mean, half the damn school of Miramar High School is, lives in Miami-Dade County and walks under the bridge. Sorry if I'm, telling, tales out of school, but I'm not trying to shut them down. My point is their program in the current century has been built on South Florida talent. And they got a couple legendary generational guys and rode that wave. And they're looking to try to continue to do that. Ja'Cory Brooks, Miami Booker T. Washington, former 5-star, who went to Alabama. He's there and scoring from 85 yards, it seems like multiple times, a game. Obviously Donald Chaney Jr. is up there. Obviously, Gilbert Frierson left here and went up there in years past. And I'm sure that there's more. I haven't really paid that close of attention to their roster, but yeah, no, this is a game that is on the, in the forefront of everybody's brain, and it's going to be tough. They have 2 losses already and, thought that they would be undefeated, maybe 1 loss. I know that one of those losses was to Notre Dame, so it didn't affect ACC standing for them. But yeah, losing SMU also, so they're in a real corner if they're trying to get to the ACC championship game. So, in a similar way to Virginia Tech, that caged animal, sometimes they roll over, but sometimes they fight real hard. So it's really incumbent upon Miami to come out of this bye week, have addressed some of the things that have gone awry, especially on defense, and continue to push forward. But yeah, this is going to be a good game. Miami is favored on the road in this one. Spoiler alert, for our forthcoming conversation when we do have a Louisville guest who joins us, I'm picking Miami to win this game. Miami 4.5-point favorites, over under 61.5. As you see on the screen right there. Noontime kick on ABC. This week is a noontime kick. The primetime box office boys do return to 7 p.m. on ESPN in the future, the near future, as in the week after this. But again, we're focused on Louisville. But it's going to be a tough challenge, but one that I think that Miami is up for, and especially having lost to this team last year, and 4 times in the last 6, they'll be intrinsically motivated. This is not one where it's just we're playing whomever, and it's going to be maybe a sleepy Saturday, and I don't know, and we'll be dialed for this one, and yeah, I will be dialed in as well.
I remember bowl games, just that's my nature because they used to be important. So I do remember 36-9, which actually that time period was the launch of Cam and I producing content together. So that's been a while, as they say.
Yeah.
I remember the beat down that Miami gave them in 2020 on a Saturday night on ABC, a game in which Rhett Lashley seemed to be one step ahead of their DC, certainly in drawing up all sorts of gadgetry, not anything super fancy like crazy reverse passes, but just isolating skill position players in great matchups downfield.
Yeah.
And then, of course, last year's game was a tremendous game that came down to, if you have no rooting interest, they came down to a goal line stand inside the 5-yard line. But back to this comparison between these 2 schools' football programs. Okay, if you give any historical context to this, that's of course a joke. It's not even it doesn't even warrant the breadth to speak or utter. It's an insult for anybody on the Miami side to even engage in that discussion. I wouldn't even, there's one thing if somebody presents to me a legitimate argument, I am fully ready and engaged in, but sometimes when there are arguments and debates brought to the forefront that are completely and utterly absurd, then I don't stoop to engaging. But if you're talking about like the last 10 years, I guarantee that if you look at the two teams' records, program records over the last 10-ish years, they're almost identical. Mm-hmm. They're extremely close.
Yeah, but hey, fandom is also based in passion. And I mean, this is from, people that I know and respect, as well, that I've heard such things. But yeah, again, maybe that's why it grates on my nerves so much. Maybe that's the entry point is that they've used to get under my skin. But hey, either way, I will definitely be watching this game. I definitely want to win this game in a vacuum because it's the game that we're playing this week, and also because I'm tired of hearing it from them, to be perfectly honest. But hey, when you win, you can talk and everything. So Miami needs to go out there and win this week.
I don't know if we're going to be able to see this, but fortunately, I am a nerd for this sort of thing. So I've got a complete, what this is, folks, this is like all-time rankings I have accumulated in things that I care about, like win percentage all time, AP rank all time, bowl wins, major bowl wins, conference championships, and conference percentage. Oh, I even go to the extreme of determining, okay, you can't just go by conference championships historically. What is your percentage of winning conference championships? Because obviously some teams have been in conferences for 80 years and you're trying to compare them to somebody that's been in the conference for 30 years, et cetera. Mm-hmm. National championships, number one draft picks, meaning first rounders, overall draft picks, all the various All-America teams, Heisman winners, et cetera, award winners from all the various positions. Okay, if we're taking Miami, there they are highlighted in the blue. And again, I know I'm not going to expect people to read all this, but if we go all the way down to the end, I've got Miami's winning percentage during the playoff era. And it's that 75-53 number. That's their winning percentage during the playoff era. And I guarantee that's almost exact to Louisville's. We shall see here in a second. 75-53, 68-56. It's actually better. Miami's got a 563 winning percentage during the playoff era, and Louisville's is 548.
I mean, so comparable, but yeah,
and I don't know. That's during a downtime for Miami.
Right, exactly. And
20th century is almost identical.
It's one of those things, but
and then Miami's got obviously a huge lead past that.
But we'll see. I did see Toast from the Orange Bowl boys was traveling up to Kentucky today, and he was making the statement and said, "Yeah, man, all the Canes fans on this flight from down here up to Kentucky on a Wednesday are degenerates who only want to go, drink and everything, because who else would go up there if you're not trying to go a couple days early to go sample, good Kentucky bourbon and all those kind of different things." I'm like, funny, bro, because you're on that plane, but I mean, yeah, that is what it is. But I mean, yeah, we just gotta go and handle business is the thing. I think we're built for it. I think that this is kind of becoming one of those seasons where Miami is finding ways to win games, has the talent at every level to win. I don't anticipate it being a blowout in either direction, but I'm looking at Miami to win, this game. And yeah, just finding a way through. But that's what Miami has to do this week for sure.
Falconer TRX, appreciate you being here, of course. And if you were not here off the top of the show, thank you for your presence in the Florida State chat. And for the record, Florida State fans, Falconer TRX shows up and he gives us our only contributions during the Florida State show. Comes from our man Falconer TRX on the Miami side in the Florida State chat. I have said this several times, so if you have not heard me say it for whatever reason, have just not been here on those particular shows, I do have to give great recognition and credit to our Miami fan base. You have supported us, maybe not in spurts, but overall consistently more than any other show, more than any other channel. So thank you for that. Falconer coming back with this. Miami should win, but I hate the noon game.
I mean, look, when you go from extremes, you had a 11 o'clock East Coast kickoff at Cal because the game got pushed back just a couple of minutes. And then, a nooner the next time out after a bye. And then you go into a primetime game back at 7 p.m. next week and whatever. I get it. But, hey, let's get up there. Let's go make it a business trip, handle business, get out of there with the win and move on. But, yeah, I mean, 3:30 is the sweet spot, I think, especially for a road game. What you would like from a day flow perspective, don't have to really be up and on and everything. And again, like I run a blog website and I'm creating content, so it's slightly different while I watch the game, so that's why I would prefer maybe a little bit later. But yeah, hey, it is what it is. We got to play the games that are on the schedule at the times that they're set. But I get it why, you might prefer a different time. I'm with you on that.
Well, I at other times in my life had a wife or significant other tugging at me and children and that sort of thing. And then you have to balance the football experience with the role of being a significant other and so forth, the father. I don't have those things right now in my life. So regardless of when football is being played, I'm covering football because I love football, but also because I'm doing this. I'm tending to a business. So I don't have an issue with whenever the games are played. Now, I would think that if you have things to do on a particular day, depending on when it is, you would either want early or late.
Yeah, I mean, that for those reasons definitely does work. I know Solid Verbal, they always talk about their window of opportunity every week on their show, which is like, if you have to do the honeydew thing, or if what is the window that you can allocate to being a good partner, to whomever your partner may be, and still balance that with, okay, well, Oregon and O State fans last week, like, hey, we're not kicking off until, so like, sure, let's go get brunch, on Saturday, hit that farmer's market. Maybe let's go to Lowe's. We're talking about, remodeling the laundry room, and everything. So, we've already measured for these shelves. Let's look at some of the different connectors. Let's look at some of the different things. Let's go and do that. Yada, yada, yada. Oh my goodness, blah, blah, blah. Cool. It's 7 o'clock or it's 6 o'clock on Saturday already. Babe, I've given you from 8:30 a.m. all the way till 6, like put in a full day of, great connection and everything. That was the window. Like, and honestly, like I went through the noon and 3:30 windows. So I didn't give you, I went over and beyond. So I appreciate that. I'm gonna close this door over here. I got, the multiple screens and everything, like listen to your audiobook of whatever content that may be, young ladies, because we know, but that's one of the things. So that you could break that up in a similar kind of a way. But yeah, I'm interested to see what a noon game would look like, especially on the road, because get up, let's, be early and energized and get that win before it gets too long into the day.
Sometimes that strategy works better on the front end, especially if you have a late, you have a late wake up call, like it's late morning already, and you're just kicking around the house, and
Look, I got
slow
a couple friends.
by the time you make break. You already probably get in a noon game by the time you're stretched out and dressed, and she's not tugging at you until like 3 or 4 in the afternoon, and you've already watched a game, and maybe it's the game that you really wanted to see. So you've got equity in the bank, and you're good to go, and everything is just gravy.
Look, again, you got to play 4D chess and not checkers. I have a bunch of friends who are coming down next week for the Florida State game because it is homecoming, and it is 20 years after we graduated. So one of those ones and things like that. And what was last week, Mark, for Miami? Last week was a bye week. Oh, buddy. I know. And all of them except, because it's myself and a couple of friends in our group who are unmarried. All of the married guys and the ones with kids, man, they didn't even hit the group chat last week. And they said, look, I know what I got to do. And it's an away game, and they don't. Most of them don't live here either. So it's like, cool. I got to do what I got to do. This week is a bye week. I'm going to do whatever I need to do next week because I've already talked to the missus that I'm flying down here from wherever. So da-da-da-da-da. So it is one of those things. But that's just kind of the way the world works.
Falconer, keeping us going here. Appreciate you being here. Does the, quote, players-only meeting show the culture?
Absolutely. Xavier Restrepo talked about it last week on a bye week when he was doing media rounds, that after the Cal game, he and a couple other people called and led a players-only meeting. And, usually those have negative connotations to them, like, the season's going off the rails and, like, we kind of need to rally together because, da-da-da. But also, this team is undefeated, but, really narrowly escaped the last couple of weeks. So I watch a lot of YouTube stuff, including like watching the clips from this very show throughout the week, which is interesting because, I kind of study my own craft. But I've been watching a lot of the video game Hitman. They have speed runners and like different kinds of challenges that are created and everything. And one of the big things in that game is you have to complete the contract of unaliving someone and escaping without being seen. So they call that the silent assassin level. So you don't get seen. None of the bodies that you unalived got seen. It's a very high level thing to escape like that. Miami's been playing on that kind of difficulty where it's like, I'm, in the middle of the streets of Mumbai, India, with 1 billion people around me and trying to escape, unscathed. And they were able to, but also like, hey, we need to be really real. Let's confront the issues here amongst us and hold each other accountable, right? Because we need to raise the level of our execution because, it was a feat to escape with a win against Virginia Tech. Now, post-game win expectancy, as I'm looking at it, was 88%. We gave them a lot to stay in that game. Against Cal, it was a 96% post-game win expectancy, right? But along the journey, it ain't feel like no 88% or no 96%. You know what I mean? But you have to confront that realistically now to say, hey, we need to clean up all of these things because we were able to get through these, narrow margins a couple of times. Not sure we'll be able to again. And also the fact that we put ourselves in these situations with these narrow margins is not upholding the standard of what we expect. So having the players lead that meeting or call and lead that meeting, and have those conversations, and I'm sure call people out for accountability, like, hey, like, I don't know what's going on with you, maybe you and Jasenia broke up or whatever, but like these mental lapses, and again, 1 or 2 mental lapses a game, that could be it. And we can't have that. So you got to leave that where it is and everything. So yes, I definitely do think that the players only meeting shows the culture that we have here, shows the focus and dedication that we have. And again, if you're not a first year player on this roster, you've lost some games here at Miami that you shouldn't have, to be perfectly honest. And even if you are a first year player, you're probably coming from somewhere like Houston didn't win the national championship. So Sam Brown, lost some games that, otherwise, when Kiko Mawinoa and Cam Ward were at Wazoo, Zach Carpenter at Indiana, you know what I mean? So you can be really honest about it and confront these issues head on. And it's a credit to them. And that's when you have a group that's led from within like that, that's when you really hit levels of performance that you couldn't otherwise access, because it cannot only be coach or teacher or whomever talking at y'all. It has to be those of us in the room taking leadership for what this is going to look like. So yeah, I was very emboldened when I heard that that had happened. So yeah, very excited for that and to see what happens this week and the rest of the season.
Cam, you've given me more confirmation as to why I don't buy into the extremes of the FPI win percentage probability. I think it's way too extreme. 96%. I understand it's a 35-10 game. I don't know if this is something I've never had answered for me. Is that win percentage just saying generic team A leads generic team B 35-10, or is it Cal, this 45th rated team in the country, leads the what we consider the 8th best team in the country 35-10? Because that's a completely different situation.
Well, yeah, those are two different things. So like the in-game win probability at 35-10, it was 94% for Cal to win that game.
Sure.
The one that I'm looking at is post-game. So if you took everything into account, you look at the success rate, you look at the explosive plays, you play that game out in the way that it was played, 96% of the time Miami wins. So it's a slightly different viewpoint, not the running during the game one, but like post-game. Let's take everything that we saw, put it all together, right? The missed tackles, the home run plays from Cal, but also the performance of Miami. Again, Miami dominated that game. Like 20 minutes extra of time of possession, 200-something yards of total offense, third down. The stat profile of that game was a Miami ass whooping of Cal. But, the circumstances of the game were pretty unique. So it's just kind of one of those things. But, onward, upward, and forward we go. But definitely interesting point of conversation.
TW Joe, thank you for the contribution. I live in Kentucky. Cannot wait to see Miami play.
Nice, man. Yeah, I hope you get over there and enjoy that game. I also cannot wait to see Miami play this week and every week.
Falconer.
Cam knows about that dirty audio book, ladies. Hey, man. Book talk is a thing. Bookstagram is a thing. And I've seen some of those things, some of those videos. So, hey, yeah.
Back in the day, the cleaned up version was a romance novel.
Well, that's the thing. Yeah, they claim to be and everything, but as I understand it, the romance novels now have levels of spiciness. Let's call it.
All right, Ashley Pownell. Appreciate you being here. Yo, Cam and Mark, can we talk about how many TDs Horton has had called back? Got to be a record. Crazy.
It's my boy AJ, man. Good to see you, bro. See you out there with your firefighter uniform and everything, doing big things, down here in Miami, helping the community and saving lives. So, yeah, good to great guy, man. So yeah, good to have you in here. Haven't heard from Kenson this week, another Miramar guy, but hey. But yeah, I was talking in one of my group chats about it, not the one with the alum group, but a different group chat. I think it's 3 touchdowns that Isaiah Horton's had called back because of penalty. There have been more. But I think he himself has had 3 of them come up off the board this year alone for being scored on plays with offensive penalties, which is unfortunate and everything. Jacoby George was the one called off for the phantom Markel Bell holding at Virginia Tech. Isaiah Horton was another one and everything. So, definitely wish that those hadn't been called off of the board and everything. Excuse me. But yeah, we just need to clean these plays up for sure, regardless of who scores them. But that being one of the things that I'm sure was brought up and discussed in the players only meeting. And in a similar way, if I were like to a high school tape, highlight tape and everything, if I were Isaiah Horton, I'm getting those clips from the All 22. I'm putting that together for consider me for the NFL. Because, I did what I needed to do in my matchup against who I was matched up with. I get that it didn't happen and this is lost to all perpetuity. I got video of me spinning that guy around and going to score type thing. But yeah, definitely it's the most by a single player that I can think of. But also Miami's had like 5 or 6 called back by penalty this year. So, take that for what it is as well. But yeah, unfortunately, a lot of those have had a negative impact on Isaiah Horton. But again, if you extend this out, and this is a thing that I was talking about after the Florida game, we've left so many points on the field. And think what Cam Ward's numbers would be, like the quarterback who threw the ball. Think what his numbers would be had we not had so many of these called back. And again, he's already leading the nation in passing yards, in touchdowns, in total offense, points scored. Imagine all of these on top of that, which actually happened. So he's like, yo, I did the thing too. 2 did the thing, right? And also, before I know we're going to bring our guest in next, I'm going to wrap this up by saying this. Speaking of that Florida game, it is asinine, the revisionist history I'm seeing from Florida fans who are saying that Miami should be 4-2, and one of those losses should have been to Florida because that was a winnable game that they let slip through their fingernails and da. Brother, that stadium was getting emptied in the third quarter. That should have been a 60-something burger, pushing 70. At what point, even after the long 71-yard touchdown run, which was just a communications breakdown, at no time was that a winnable game. I must be living in a simulation. This has to be an alternate reality universe type thing. You're going to say, yeah, that was a winnable game that we let slip by. What? Yeah, crazy. But you know what? That's them people in Alachua County. So, crazy as crazy will do. But I couldn't believe that I saw that on Al Gore's internet this week. I couldn't believe that they. Anyways,
neutral perspective right here. I'll back that up 100%. There was a lot of distance between those two teams on that day. Absolutely. All right, let's get the take from the other side. Of course, Miami and Louisville get together at noon Eastern time on ABC. We got Mark Ennis checking in from 93.9 The Drive there in Louisville. Mark, how you doing today?
I'm doing great. Appreciate you guys having me on. I was getting nervous waiting for Cam to finish. I was like, oh man, he's fired up tonight. This is gonna be fun.
No, this is every day, man. And
I believe it.
I am this is a great honor, man. I know I've known you for a long time through SB Nation and Card Chronicle and everything. We follow each other on Twitter and go back and forth and are both passionate about our alma maters and the teams that we support. And I was actually mentioning you in absentia in a couple of the things I said earlier in the show about just having gone back and forth with people and knowing a lot about football and everything. So and when Mark was like Mark Rogers was like, yeah, we're bringing in somebody in the 93.9 The Drive, and I was like, that sounds like a Mark Ennis lead in. And yeah, so you're here. It is an honor and a pleasure to have you with us, honestly, man. Good to see you.
Thank you. Appreciate it. I'm looking forward to it.
Well, that being the case, I'll get us started, but then I will lean back and soak it up and let you two go back and forth. So, Mark, we'll start with this. Louisville, of course, Jeff Brom does a heck of a job. I think anybody that knows the game of college football respects his ability, what he's done at Louisville after what he did at Purdue. The numbers before and after speak for themselves, and what he can do, especially on the offensive side, but as a head coach building a program. So he gets Louisville to the ACC championship game last year. I caught the game against SMU a couple weeks ago. The defense looked a bit shoddy in that one. Tyler Shook's the new quarterback. So get us caught up on Louisville football through a 4-2 start.
Yeah, I think it's been a real mixed bag. You talk, it's not revisionist history, but it's a little bit of wishing You have 2 1-touchdown losses in Louisville's case at Notre Dame and against an SMU team that's better than we thought before the season started. And I think Louisville feels like they kind of did themselves in both of them. And I think they're about half right. I think you got beat by SMU. You weren't ready for SMU. And it was like the height of the defense, I think, being really, really ragged and disorganized. The Notre Dame game, I mean, look, you can't turn the ball over as many times as you did. You can't snap the ball 40 yards backwards and it end up inside the 5. You outgained Notre Dame nearly 2-1, in that game. That one, I think, if you want to look back on that one as you regret, and feel like you did that to yourself, I think you just have to wear the SMU game. They're a team, I think they are a pretty dangerous passing team and emergence of a really, really talented freshman running back in Isaac Brown. And they're a real enigma on defense. It's surprised me how ineffective I think that they've been. And last week, I think they really kind of pared things down, a lot less substituting and a lot more like, hey, listen, some of y'all better, or whoever it's going to be needs to figure it out. And it was better. But boy, 2 weeks ago really sits in a lot of people's minds. You're getting caught with 13, 14 guys on the field, stuff like that. It was just really shockingly kind of not ready for SMU, and hoping that last weekend's somewhat better performance by the defense is sort of the new normal.
That's not allowed. 14 on the field. That's a problem.
Not at the same time.
Okay.
Yeah, definitely not after Saturday night either. They're looking to change that rule for too many men on the field on defense immediately.
Well, Louisville wasn't trying to do it on purpose.
Right. Well, neither was Oregon, let that wry smile in exactly that.
Yeah.
I mean, kind of a thing. But it'll be interesting. So it's an interesting crossover between Miami and Louisville. Like, your quarterback was recruited by Mario at Oregon, started for them, got a bunch of dudes from down here, whether it's through recruiting or, the transfer portal, like, obviously Corey Brooks from Miami, Booker T. Washington, Donald Chaney, who was on this roster last year, Gilbert Frierson in the past, Willie Williams in the past, lots of crossover. So, what does that mean, or how does that ramp up the intensity between the teams in this game in your eyes?
Yeah, there's so much more even than that. You go all the way back to what Howard Schnellenberger means to both places. He's the progenitor of like the best things about them as football programs. Now he's responsible in both places and is revered. I mean, the Louisville football complex is the Howard Schnellenberger Center, and he's just as near and dear to folks in Miami. Lamar Jackson's from South Florida, not quite Miami, but South Florida. And of course, Teddy Bridgewater and Eli Rogers and that whole 2013 team was just chock full of guys, from Miami proper. And Louisville, it owes a lot of its rise out of the 90s to today to cashing in with either transfers that were from Miami and sort of, second chance, at Louisville, or getting guys out of Miami that were maybe overlooked a little bit. And so there's always been, a connection to South Florida and to Miami with Louisville, with people. And Miami, look, like most places when you're ascending in the 90s, Miami's like the thing to try to be. And I think Louisville's always looked at Miami as something of a measuring stick. And, the 04 game that they almost won really opened a lot of people's eyes. Like, hey, if we keep this up, like we can be a good team. And then you played Miami. It was Miami. Look, Miami was Louisville's first game in the ACC. They played last year. Like it helped them clinch the Atlantic Division. Like there've been meaningful games throughout the series. Got the hell kicked out of them in 2019 by Miami. But like it's been a good competitive series, and that game just means a lot. Louisville's aspirational, as a football program, and Miami is up there. And I think all of those times where they've played Florida State and Miami, they've always looked at those like measuring sticks of kind of what they want to be. So it means a lot to folks.
Yeah, no, same. Definitely hold the 04 game close to my heart. That was my senior year and everything. And I was a music major. I was a singer at the time, and got in trouble because I screamed my voice out on that Thursday night and everything. So I go into choir the next day, and Dr. Scheibe was none too pleased with your boy. But but hey, if I had to do it all over again, I definitely would.
Sure.
You know, I mean, because come on, why would you not? I know you talked a little bit about the defensive struggles, you know, in a couple of spots this year, and I think that Miami has also had some of those in allowing big plays.
Yeah.
You know, I mentioned that to kind of get to the Miami defensive side. What do y'all like? Brian Brown always is an innovator on offense, and he creates so many problems. What do you see as the area for exploitation with the Louisville offense against the Miami defense on Saturday?
Yeah, I think they probably, if they can protect Tyler Shuck, that's the big if, and it has been a big if really all year. They're really kind of struggling at both tackles, which is not great, facing Tyler Barron, who we know, and Ruben Bain. Like, it'll be, you know, that defensive line will be a problem. I think Louisville thinks if they can makeshift a way to protect him enough that Ja'Cory Brooks and Colin Lacey and Jamari Johnson, the tight end, like these guys, you have a chance to get something going through the air. And I think they took a lot of confidence from going up to Notre Dame and really, in terms of throwing the ball, went really up and down the field against Notre Dame. And think it all really comes down to figuring out what they'll do up front to give Tyler Shuck just a little bit of time. He has been a health, you know, the health has really only been his issue in college. He's had some season-ending injuries repeatedly, and he's just got kind of a bad rep. But like when he's healthy, he's been every bit as advertised. He can make all the throws. He's 27 years old. He doesn't get flustered. You know, you can tell. So in terms of the offense, I think if they can protect him, they feel like they've got some throws there to make. But, you know, go back to even last year's game when Louisville wasn't a great passing team. You know, Jack Plummer over 300 yards, and it was one of Brom's best games of just sort of like chicken salading some passing offense out of what was left of Louisville at that point offensively. And I would expect him to go pretty deep into the bag here to try to come up with something, because they're going to need it. They're going to need some workarounds for sure.
Okay. And then Isaac Brown, you know, freshman running back, you know, like I say, you know, Donald Chaney Jr. came, you know, he's from here, you know, as in the city and then also the team and everything. And he went up there and, you know, early through spring and everything was looking like he was going to start. And then, you know, this Brown kid is just taking over. Yeah. You know, what have you found in the running game? Because I think maybe some of that could be advantageous with the way that he's progressing through the season as well.
Yeah, I think Isaac Brown, you know, they were high on him. They liked him, but I don't think they knew, you know, he'd be, you know, top 10 in terms of like freshman running backs in the country. And he's a big play guy, you know, and there are running backs who like break tackles by how fast they are. You know, they kind of all of a sudden they're up on you before you kind of realize, or they force you to take bad angles and stuff. And I've been surprised. I don't think he's wildly strong, but I think he does run through a lot of tackles because he's a lot faster than you really anticipated. It's given Louisville some big play out of the running back position, and they've needed it because they're not a great like mashing running team at all. But I thought that they at least kind of figured it out last week with SMU and more, or 2 weeks ago, and then last week with Virginia. Yeah, they're not going to be able to get under center and just plow people a bunch. In fact, they've stunk at it, really. But RPOs and stuff that was a little bit more 3 wide receivers and 1 tight end instead of 2 tight ends and stuff, and getting him out on the edges and on space a little bit, I think you'll see a heavy dose of that, and he seems to really thrive with that. Chaney's he's going to get you exactly what's available and no more, but no less. You know what I mean? And that's fine. You need that too.
Yeah, he's Leroy Horde, you know, 1st and 10, I'm gonna get you 4.
Eric
3rd and 5, I'm gonna get you 4. Yep. You know, kind of a thing. So, yeah, nothing wrong with that. What's the defense gonna do against Cam Ward in this passing game? Because he's been.
No, I answer it that way just to say, I don't think anyone feels like they've played one good 60-minute game yet. There've been some real issues. I thought last week against Virginia, I liked what I saw. I think Virginia's an underrated offensive team. They did more good things in that game than any game this year, but I'd be lying to you or any of your listeners if I said that Louisville's defended a single mobile quarterback well. Going all the way back to even Huff from Jacksonville State had over 100 yards rushing. Like, it's just it's a thing they don't handle well. And I think really it comes down to they're not overly disruptive up front. Ashton Gelati is, but he's really kind of the only guy creating problems for people one-on-one as a defensive lineman. Everybody else is pretty pedestrian and, kind of gives offenses a chance to keep plays alive. And I thought Jennings really frustrated the hell out of them keeping stuff alive. And Calandria is wild, but like he's good, but he's wild.
Yeah.
But even, Haynes King kind of ate him up with designed runs. I wouldn't be shocked at all to see Cam Ward have a season high in like designed runs, this week, because I just really feel like that would be any good offensive coordinator at all would look at what Louisville struggle with and say, well, Cam, you're going to carry the ball 15, 20 times this game because it's probably going to be there.
Interesting. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, hopefully it's not more than 10-ish because he's really definitely more of a scramble to find the home run throw than like a QB run.
Well, Louisville lets him do that too.
Well, okay.
It just hasn't been a great defensive year. I think
Gotcha.
I think you'll see them sell out. You have to pick your poison and just hope that they can goad him into a couple turnovers. And he's done that. I don't know if Louisville's capable of making him do that, but Cam Ward has been generous at times. If you can be disruptive, but just I think the Achilles heel of the defense is up front. Unless somebody emerges or just surprises you, it's really just been Ashton Gelati and kind of not very many other people. In the Notre Dame game a year ago, randomly Mason Riger was a walk-on defensive end. He whipped Joe Alt. I think he had 2 sacks in that game. Can you get a performance out of somebody, out of nowhere? Sure, but I don't have somebody that I can tell you, like, I feel like it's going to be that person.
Got you. The last thing that I'll say is, obviously it's a 4.5-point line and everything. And, this is going to be a close game. Personally, I do see just Miami is having better quality and coming out with a tough earned victory. Definitely not expecting a 73-0 kind of a game. But I'm very interested. And I think that there is a path for Louisville to win. I'm interested to get your take on, if blank happens, for Louisville to win, this is the scenario that most likely occurs.
Oh, I think it's Miami turning the ball over. I think that's the big thing. If they get Cam Ward flustered, if they get some short fields, and that sort of thing, I think the thing that Louisville hasn't done is kept the offense from really even blowing up is like getting that good drive, 3 and out, get the ball back again, and all of a sudden this offense has kind of really got a lather to it. They haven't done that all year. And I think if they're scoring and the crowd is amped up and Jeff Brom is, he's a positive in games like this, especially he's very, very good at this. I think the offense will come out and be productive. It is going to entirely come down to, can he get some key stops? Can he get some Cam Ward to make some mistakes and really try to get a snowball kind of rolling in the other direction? And Brom's biggest wins have always been like that. But if they do that to Miami, it will be because they did things they haven't done all year. And who can predict that? So
right. I mean, and that was, as you were giving that answer on my side of the street, you guys are playing your 5th game in a row. Miami's coming off of their first bye week of the year. So I'm thinking to myself, what wrinkle will Miami bring out? I know that a couple of years ago, that 19 game, Rhett Lashley was just dialing up all kinds of things. We went to Pittsburgh that same year and just dialed up, flea flicker here and this there and blah, blah. So I'm interested to see, what Miami has in the chamber that they haven't shown, previously. But I think that, I pretty much do agree. We'll take some of those turnovers, but Cam Ward has given the ball away, in some instances. And, with a couple of veteran guys, especially in the secondary, maybe you're able to bait him into a throw like he made against Virginia Tech in the red zone area.
I think you'll have to take a chance that you can do that. I think Louisville can't beat. They're not disruptive just as a base defense. So I think you got to say, we're going to sell out. And if he beats us, he beats us, but maybe we can get a few stops along the way. I think I think the over is a great bet in this game.
61.5. That's
I think they're going to play a game in the low 30s.
Yeah. And I think that, Miami's trending in that way because, when you have more 38 to 34, 39 to 38, the last 2 games out. So it's like, hey, if that over under is pushing 80, we think that we can continue to be on the gas further, or more than the opposing team with Louisville and, Brom and what you guys do, offer on offense. That scares me a little bit. Because to win games like we've won the last 2 weeks, you have to get that one stop when you need it, that 1 3 and out, when you need it. And you guys do a good job on offense. So that does concern me a little bit, on the other side.
My favorite thing about this that has emerged leading up to this game is somehow the idea that Miami is the establishment team, and that the ACC is protecting them. And this is all driven by the hilarity that is all of Cal's fans on Twitter, but it's very funny. Yeah. And make no mistake, your Louisville fans definitely think the ACC hates them. So the convergence of the two this week has been very funny. And I'm telling you, the first call that doesn't go Louisville's way on Saturday, the place is going to go crazy. It's going to be
hilarious. We're basically two outsiders who are like, no, like you're more the insider. No, you're more the insider. Yeah. Exactly. It's just like we're both adopted stepchildren, like whatever, but it'll be definitely an interesting kind of a thing. So hopefully there aren't many calls because Miami has struggled with some penalty issues, which also could be beneficial for the opposition. But hopefully it's a relatively clean game and everything. But it will definitely be interesting. So looking forward to it.
Yep. Mark, thanks for being here. And we want to make sure that everyone knows where to find you, and you let us know what you are up to this week.
Yeah, boy, we are breaking this one down and getting ready for men's basketball season. We got the first exhibition under Pat Kelsey on next Tuesday too, so it's kind of the best time of year around here. Twitter handle is right there at Mark Ennis, and we're on 93.9 The Ville Monday through Friday, 3 to 6. This really is the best time of year, guys. Good talking to you.
Likewise, and I will just say that I double hate you because even with that terrible, horrible, no good, very bad, atrocious coach that you had, y'all came down to Coral Gables in each of the last 2 years and beat the basketball team.
No one was more surprised than us, I promise.
I mean, I was a basketball player growing up. That's my first love. So I'm like, okay, and I was just like, you know what? They're going to play really hard tonight. And I had all kinds of people coming at me. No, they're not. I said, I'm going to watch this game and you're going to watch and see. And like that. And, just following, you guys, huge basketball community in Louisville, just the fire and vitriol that you hated that man with. And I get it, but I'm like, it reminds me of the 2016 football season when everybody got to make fun of Notre Dame for going 4-8.
Yep.
Except for us because we were one of the 4. You know what I mean? It was just like, oh my God, they lose 27 games in basketball, but come down here and smoke us in our own barn. It was just, So I just wanted to bring that up as well.
That's great.
Well, listen, no one was more surprised than us, like I said. And at that time, if it makes you feel any better, a lot of people looked at that and they were like, oh no, is he going to save his job? So no one enjoyed that, I promise.
Yeah, that's crazy. Good to talk to you, man. Thanks for coming on.
Anytime, guys.
Here.
Happy to do it.
Have a good night. All right. Great stuff with Mark Ennis. Of course, it's Louisville, Miami coming up on Saturday, and we'll have some super chats take us home here.
Let's go.
TDW, Joe. If nothing happens, I got tickets to the game.
Hey, man, I'm sure that you can find them even if something does happen, because I know that it's a sellout, but I'm sure you can obtain them. But yeah, hopefully, since you live up there, you're able to get in and go and have a good celebration.
Falconer giving us this one. Jalen Rivers' back is huge.
No Y in his name, J-A-L-E-N. But yes, it is huge. I'm just saying, just to correct the spelling.
Oh, yeah.
But he is our starting left tackle. Mario Cristobal talked about him in multiple opportunities this week coming back. He's, Markel Bell is good. He doesn't have a redshirt year left coming from JUCO, so he has to play this year and next year. But you're going to see the quality of the offensive line tick up a little bit with Rivers back. And Bell is still going to continue to get reps. Maybe one of the things that we bring in is the 6 or 7 offensive lineman sets that we ran some last year. You bring him in on goal line because, again, Markel Bell does not have a redshirt year to use here. So we've already played him a bunch, through the first, he's played in every game. continue to play him and everything, and in limited rotational kind of a thing. But getting your starting left tackle back is huge, and he can continue to build his case for the NFL. Whether I don't know where he'll land in the NFL. I think he can play tackle. I think he definitely can. He can play anywhere on the offensive line. Mario Cristobal made that very clear this week. He could land at tackle or guard moving forward, but he's not hamstrung by his physicality like others in the past who were completely miscast as tackles here at Miami. But yeah, getting your starting left tackle back, a 5th or 6th year senior dude, that's going to be a big step.
Falconer just won't leave it alone. He wants to hear from those sultry tones. Damn, if you do your work by those, try those romance novels.
It's good work if you can get it. That's all I'll say.
And then we got Falconer TRX with NCAA and refs love Miami.
Again, that's the level that Louisville people like. That's kind of been the twist, it's not. Let me actually take that back from them. Like, Virginia Tech people, I saw somebody, 2 of them went over by the ACC offices with like signs like, oh, there's no accountability. So they had the ACC blue and the orange and green U in that, after the Virginia Tech game. And I'm like, he never caught the ball. He never had whatever. And then, the Calgorithm thing, like, oh, well, the Wesley Basainth call. I'm like, again, it wasn't targeting. So whatever. But yeah, as we've gone on, the case being made of, in every instance of a 50-50 call, err on the side of Miami to protect them as whatever. And I'm like, Miami has a huge brand. Obviously, I retweeted something, the most watched game in the ACC this year was Louisville SMU, of a game that did not have Clemson, Miami, or Florida State involved in it, right? So absent those 3 major brands, SMU, Louisville was the most watched game. Do you know what that rating was, Mark? Or how many people watched that game? The most watched ACC game minus Miami, Clemson, and FSU.
That was a noon, either ABC or ESPN. I don't remember which.
ESPN.
I'm going to say ESPN game at noon. I'm going to go with 2.1 million.
1.4.
Okay, I was going to go 1.9.
So like, okay. But that's the most watched game that doesn't include one of the 3 big brands, bro. Yeah. Like, hey, so I get it that people want to say, well, it's just like, again, that logo is something different, brother. Just like Mario Cristobal said, that logo holds weight, right? And you see that from there. But then people are like, oh, well, they're trying to protect, a potential playoff team and da-da-da. The thing that protected a potential playoff team from losing games was that potential playoff team figuring shit out and actually, playing to that last play and finding ways to win. But yeah, it is interesting that as this season has gone on, all of a sudden, to the Super Chat's point, yeah, people are looking at like, oh yeah, they're just propping up Miami and supporting them and everything, which, please.
And on State of the U this week,
lots of great stuff, man. I finally wrote our first and I'll probably try to get one other one, class breakdown of where the recruiting class stands and where we look at all of the different positions. That's up there. X's and O's, the ACC power rankings, the state of Florida power rankings, and a couple other pieces as well. So please come on over and fan with us on socials at the State of the U, at Underwood Sports there as well. And I'm going to go eat some food and watch some video games. So I will catch you guys soon, hopefully at 7-0 next week, Wednesday.
Thanks, Cam. Like and subscribe on your way out. We'll see you next week.
Bye, guys.